Now, before you go, ghost hunters, just to reiterate, your group examines paranormal sites that are requested all over Spokane, and you do it free.
Correct.
You do it free. Kathy over here has a whole bunch of your cards if anyone wants to. I think everybody should grab one to just for safekeeping should haunting happens. But I'm haunted, but I have been for over 40 years. I'm a lawyer. We call that professional courtesy. Thank you, Ghost Hunters. You can have a seat. Thank you very much.
Variously known as the Hawthorne Hotel and the Bellevue Hotel, before its name was changed to the Carlisle in the 1920s, was one of the first brick structures to be built after the Great Fire of Spokane. So, the Carlisle has been around a long time in Spokane with a considerable history. At least from the time of its latter years of operation, some visitors to the hotel, and even a few of those walking by on the sidewalk, have reported hearing the diabolical laughter of a little girl. This is not the light and joyful sound of a delighted child. Rather, it is the sinister and demonic laugh that a trained exorcist reports hearing at the bedside of a tormented child. It is the laugh of little Reagan in the classic movie The Exorcist in 1973. One woman who worked for a time in the kitchen of the Carlisle is still unnerved years later when she recalls that occasionally, when she was alone preparing food, she would hear a little girl's voice whisper, "Are you my mommy? Are you my mommy?" She was aware at the time of a little girl ghost associated with the hotel, and these auditory paranormal appearances were and are very frightening. Over the years, there have been many businesses occupying the ground floor levels of the Carlisle, and occasionally deaths were reported in the hotel rooms. So there are many sources of the hauntings that are possible. Occasionally, passerbys still hear unnerving sounds. Are they from the ghost of the 26-year-old woman who plunged to her death from the 4th story of Carlisle window in 1989? Or are they the sounds of the 34-year-old Pamela Lang, who left the hotel on the night of June 15, 1993, never to be seen alive again, except by her murderer, who cast her lifeless body into nearby Fish Creek? Or are they from some undiscovered succubus who murdered poor Olaf Cornez in his Carlisle room on Memorial Day in 1989?
There are 2 Hotel Rubies located in downtown Spokane, both owned and operated by Jerry and Patty Dicker. There has been a hotel on the site of the original Hotel Ruby and the Sapphire Lounge at the corner of First Avenue and Lincoln for well over 100 years. The buildings have changed, though. The names have changed. The Lion Hotel, the Roadway Inn, Town Center Inn, and Hotel Ruby. However, the old ghosts have remained as guests. One witness, a university professor in Spokane, has reported that when he first came to Spokane with his wife some years ago to interview for a job, the hotel on the spot was the Roadway Inn, and the couple stayed there. In the middle of the night, the couple was awakened with glowing golden orbs of all different sizes in the room. They even took photographs of the phenomenon. We know where the ghost came from. During the terrible Spanish influenza pandemic years of 1918 and 1919, the establishment overlapping this spot was the Lion Hotel. In October 1918, the Lion Hotel was converted into a plague hospital to hold the rapidly rising cases of influenza in the city, because all of the hospitals and infirmaries in the city filled to overflowing. 42,000 people in Spokane fell seriously ill during the pandemic, and unfortunately 1,045 of those died, average age 31 years old. The 80-room Lion Hotel could house 150 pandemic victims at a time, and the death rate ensured that there were vacancies daily for newly arriving guests. Hundreds died there.
Now, Hotel Ruby 2, located on South Coast Street, is the old and refurbished Ramada Limited Hotel. The Hotel Ruby 2 is said to be an ordinary downtown accommodation free of paranormal implications, but this is not entirely the case. The hotel sits on the exact spot of the 19th century Spokane coffin factory and an early location of the Smith & Company funeral home. The Spokane Coffin Factory changed its name in 1903 to Spokane Casket Company and moved to a 3-story factory in Peaceful Valley, where it manufactured coffins until 1999. The factory was demolished in 2001.
After all of that, ladies, maybe we need a drink. Let's talk about the haunted bars and pubs of downtown Spokane.
Yes.
Is Jess here from the checkerboard? Is Jess here? Said she might be here. Well, the checkerboard, the bar that Jess works at, is on East Sprague Avenue, and it is the oldest continuously operating bar in Spokane. Well, in the state of Washington, actually. It was an illegal speakeasy before 1914. It was after 1914. And when Prohibition ended in the state of Washington on December 5, 1933, the owner of the checkerboard was first in line to get a legal liquor license. So it has the fame of being the oldest continuously operating bar in Washington. It has many, many ghost stories there, many famous ghost stories. And the largest one is, the most often heard ghost stories is about vibrations. When people open up, the servers open up the bar, they will find vibrations among the glasses and the stored soft drink bottles and even the liquor bottles that often have vibrated against each other and crashed. So if you go into the checkerboard, you will see that the bottles are spaced so that the vibrations do not actually cause damage there. They have also the ghost seat, the first seat at the bar when you enter the checkerboard. It's got a cigar burnt place on the bar, and those in the know never to sit on that stool at the bar, because that is the patron ghost of the bar, an old timer from years past that used to go into the bar to have an afternoon drink 7 days a week, a beer, and that was in those days you could smoke in a bar, and he actually occasionally nodded off and took a nap there. He's an old character, and one day he was seen to be nodded off. They didn't bother him, and after a while they said, well, what's wrong with him? They went over to him. He had died, and the cigar from his mouth had fallen on the bar and burnt into the wooden bar, and he is the patron ghost. That's the ghost seat of the bar. We've had ghost hunters do investigations with electromagnetic field instruments there, and they find a huge electromagnetic fluctuation in the back of the bar.
Well, and then there's Mootsy's Bar at 406 West Sprague Avenue. Is a very old ghost bar venue downtown with a long haunted history. And although the owner says he's never seen a ghost in the place, plenty of Mootsy's regulars have. Just like the checkerboard bar down the street, there are too many ghost stories to keep up with on a crowded Friday or Saturday night. Mootsy's ghost patroness is Sophia. Over the bar is a half-century-old painting of a love 1950. The old painting may have been the origin of the ghost story, but no one knows for sure why the ghostly siren depicted is named Sophia or her history. There are also strange memorabilia, from what is anybody's guess, hanging from the ceiling and posted on the walls. Mootsy's may be most famous in ghost circles for the still intact section in the bar's basement of the 11 and a half miles of underground tunnels beneath the streets of Spokane, connecting the steam plant with its utility customers from 1915 to 1987.
How many here have been to Mootsy's? They're not admitting it.
And they'll be going.
All right, I'll admit it. I've been to Mootsy's. Several hundred times. The thing about Mootsy's, especially this time of year, is the weirdos that go to Mootsy's. Because maybe you've driven past Mootsy's on Sprague, corner of Washington around Halloween, one of the Halloween days or weekends, and seen that it looks like Mardi Gras in New Orleans. It's standing room only in the bar. It's standing room only outside of the bar. You cannot get the car to drive, through the people there. And they have the people of Mootsy's at Halloween wear the strangest costumes you will have ever seen in your life. All homemade, very, very strange. Occasionally, they have a display like that too on New Year's Eve. It depends on when it falls. The owner, Dan, has told me repeatedly, Chet, I don't believe in ghosts. But now he's the only one at Mootsy's that doesn't believe in ghosts. All you have to do is go into Mootsy's and talk about ghosts, and people will start telling you about ghost stories there. Very, very interesting ghost stories. Mootsy's is the oldest downtown ghost bar that I've discovered that we have in downtown Spokane. I want to tell you just one story. And I was in one afternoon sipping a $2 pint at Mootsy's, it was almost empty because I was in there, wanting to talk to Dan about some of the stories and about the entrances to the 11 and a half miles of tunnels that are below Mootsy's. And there was this old woman, I don't want to use the C word, crone, but she was old, and she's drinking a shot of whiskey at the end of the bar, way down there. And the conversation is lulled, and she shouts out, young man, can you read palms? And I'm thinking, oh my God. I teach palmistry as a history course in spiritualism. You know what they say, those that can't do teach. For some unknown reason, I yelled back, yes ma'am, I can read palms. And down she comes with her glass of whiskey, and she sets it right next to my palm, and she reaches out her old withered hand, and she says, read 'em. And I looked at her palms, and I said, that's interesting. What has been told to you about your lifelines before? She says, I've been told I have 2 lives. And I said, well, yes, ma'am. What I see here is that I've never actually seen it before, but you have 2 lifelines in each palm, and right there in the center, you have the cross mystique, which often indicates someone that is clairvoyant. Are you clairvoyant? She says, I don't know what that means. She says, but I can see things. She says, I can see things others cannot see. And she says, sometimes I see things before they even happen. That was weird. I said, all I could think of saying is, yes, ma'am. So she takes her drink and goes down into the bar. That's Mootsy's. That's Mootsy's for you. A place of weirdos.
Just around the corner from Mootsy's and in Spokane's old Chinatown is the bar at the Sukiyaki Inn, with its own entrance in the alley alongside the restaurant. Although the Sukiyaki Inn is Spokane's oldest, and in the opinion of many, the best Japanese restaurant in the city. The bar around back with the alley entrance is definitely ghostly and more than a little strange. The Japanese Americans have a rich ghost history here in Spokane. A psychic medium's assessment of the Sukiyaki Inn has revealed a group of friendly and honorable Yuri ghosts from years past. However, in the ghost bar, you are more likely to sense the Soku Jinki, or Rasetsu, ghost of Henry Ara. Henry was a Japanese-American murderer of Sam Chow in the old town of Chinatown. And he was hung on June 3rd, 1905, on the courthouse lawn. And it took a horrifying 21 minutes of struggling and choking on the gallows ropes before he finally died. His unrighteous ghost is one to watch out for in the alley.
And then there's the Riff at 215 West Main. And now I've got to tell you, I'm going off script here, because in fact, night before last, in my research for tonight, we went to two bars, and one of them was the Riff, and the other was the Red Lion. And so I go in, and absolutely, I say, yeah, watch the people in the Riff, they're talking, having a good time. And at some point I introduce myself and say, oh, by the way, we're doing this story at the pavilion on Friday night, and the Riff is in it. And the owner's right there, and I was hoping he would be here tonight, because he instantly says, oh yeah, I have a video, and he proceeds to tell us that, oh yes, he's experienced ghosts, and I invited him to join us tonight and let me know, and I'd let him speak. But even better than that, the second bar we went to was the Red Lion. And again, we order a beer, a glass of water, and I say, you know, talking away, there's only a couple people in the bar. They tell me it's a sports bar. And again I say, by the way, I'm here because we're doing this show on Friday night at the pavilion. And again, the girl bartender instantly says, oh yeah, there's a ghost in the basement. And I honestly, I would suggest try going to any of these. It's been my personal experience, night before last, the two bars I went to and asked, the people that worked there instantly said, oh yeah. So anyway, back to my script. The Riff at 215 West Main Street is a little uninviting, dark, graffiti-covered, and somewhat foreboding bar with a small indoor-outdoor patio in the back that is so crowded and the musical entertainers have to set up in the alley parking lot to play. It's just the place one might expect to be haunted, and it is with multiple ghosts, according to the bartender. And I'll tell you honestly, the Riff is about the size of, it's this little tiny place that's really cool. I really was, I'd never been there. Your turn, sorry.
Is it possible you brought the ghost with you
God,
into
no,
that place?
the guy said he'd been there for 11 years, and he spent the night there before, and that he had one thing on video.
Okay, so that was your round of cocktails before lunch. So after lunch, you went to the Red Lion. Tell us about Red Lion.
Oh, the Red Lion. Okay, I'll tell you about the Red Lion. Okay, and there's this bar on the corner of Division Street and East Main, in the old Division Street Hotel, since the place was built Its resident ghost is Whitey, who was a bartender that died in the place before any of us were born, and his ghost decided to stay when his earthly remains were carried out. Whitey is in the basement, and this is exactly what this girl said. She said that she hears, and everybody that's worked there has heard stuff in the basement when no one's there. And for that we are thankful. But brave the haunting for owner George Tolodi's wine marinated chicken. It's the best in the city. George does not believe in ghosts, but he readily admits no one has ever worked for him at the Red Lion that doesn't believe in the ghost Whitey.
I'd like to interject here. I don't know how many of you have been to the Red Lion. It's a restaurant and a bar. But Joanne Tedlotti, who's part owner of the bar, she does a magnificent job, an extraordinary job decorating for Halloween. You need to stop in there, even if it's not for lunch, sometimes within the next 2 weeks, and look at the Halloween decorations. They're just unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Okay, we've already talked about the Hotel Ruby. Its Sapphire Lounge, though, is the ghost place for visitors. The Ruby Sapphire Lounge is upbeat and modern, but still a little haunted ghost bar. The ghosts in the rooms here are interesting, fascinating in fact, and have been described as floating orbs of different sizes. There's even a weird avant-garde floating orb chandelier in the bar that really makes one think and order a second drink.
We have the Steam Plant Brewery Bar that we talked about, I think, last time. If you like your cocktails top shelf, shaken not stirred, there's always the Peacock Lounge at the Davenport that we touched on last. But we can't leave you tonight without talking about Patty Tully's Baby Bar. How many of you have been to the Baby Bar? And they're not even ashamed to raise their hand. If it's possible, the Baby Bar is smaller than Riff's. It is a classic Spokane institution. There are no signs for the Baby Bar. It's across First Avenue from the Davenport Hotel. You have to go up a ramp to a parking lot, go into a door to your left, go into a labyrinth type of hallways, and then you'll come to the public bar. It's very small. It's very clean and orderly. It's very romantic, although it's bathed in red light with ghost memorabilia all around it. Patty Tully's signature drink is fresh grapefruit with anything. There's always a big pile of grapefruit right there. A very spooky bar, but kind of the type of place that you meet in the hillbilly regions of Georgia. You know, if you have to ask where it is, maybe that's not the bar you need to go to. But find out where the Baby Bar is, go there, and that's quite a treat. Well, folks, that's it for this evening's Weirdness. We appreciate your attendance, especially